Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to episode 90 of Direwolf20's Modern Skyblock series. Today, I want to play more with nuclear craft because I'm really having fun with this mod. So we're going to check out the nuclear furnace first, mostly because it's the next quest line that we need in order to do what we got to do. So let's get some tough alloys and make a nuclear furnace, which sounds like a foolish endeavor. Like, why would we make a nuclear furnace exactly? I don't know. What's going on, Chief? Oh, there you are. You're going. You're going. I'm just being impatient. I suspect you're going. Are you going? Not fast enough. You should be, lithium and ferroborn should be making tough alloys. That's what this is, right? Yeah, totally. Ah, there we are. I guess I was just being super impatient. Kitchen nightmare. That sounds accurate to me. Oh, look, we got another block of lead. I've been doing a bad job of supervising this thing, but that's okay. Quest updated. Nuclear furnace. It's scary looking. So what kind of fuels can go in there? It makes a fission controller. So that's neat. So yeah, that's a quest complete, right? An active fluid. The active fluid cooler, when given a coolant, can cool down a fission or fusion reactor. We'll hold off on that because what I want to do is jump into. I don't know if we need crystallizing yet, but we'll make it when we need it. Let's do that. Is that fair? Because I don't think anything here says true nuclear fusion requires crystallizing. So maybe we should make it real quick. Precipitate solids from a solution. Would it be like annoying to make? I didn't already make a crystallizer, right? No, because I don't remember having to make a cauldron last episode, so I'm going to assume that no, I did not. Except for the reservoir. I made a cauldron for the reservoir, but it's all good. There we go. Sweet. So we got a crystallizer. Not sure what we'll do with it, but we're going to hope it works out. So, fission reactor. The fusion reactor or the fusion reactor is a multiblock shaped like a box with the sides and corners being left out. It can be pretty much any size. So 26 reactor casing and a fission controller. So let's figure out what reactor casing looks like because I assume that we're going to want reactor casing. Do you know how to make basic plating? Did I teach you that? Well, we have a lot of it, so there's that. We don't know how to make it. I feel like I should probably just teach it because it's just graphite dust and lead. So like you should at least know for when we run out how to make it. Is that a fair assessment? Now I don't know if you know how to make graphite dust, but maybe you'll figure it out because you're a smart dude. So plating. No, not plating. Casing. We're gonna want 26 EU, right? That's what you reactor casings want. And a fission controller. Fission controller old. Fission controller. This is a new controller and we'll use the new reactor rules. Fission reactor port. This is an old controller. And okay, cool. I'm guessing we want this thing, right? Fission controller requires another machine chassis, which we've used most of. So look at me. Good job, Direwolf. You've made a lot of things. And we're also going to want a couple nuclear furnaces, which shouldn't be too bad to get. I made a bunch of tough alloy, didn't I? I might have used it all, though, in order to get what I needed to get. Oh, and that's right. You needed to probably make, like, yeah, steel and boron first. Yeah, that's why it took a while to make that stuff last time. Okay, cool. You can probably close out because you're holding my items hostage. So now we got tough alloys coming in here, right? And when we get 4 more tough alloys, I'll make the 2 of these things and upgrade it to a fission doohickey. 2, check, check, check. Nice. Now you're still auto-crafting, I presume? You're making tough alloys, yeah. You're making some stuff. Whoa! Challenge completed. Splitting the atom. Dun, dun, dun. But where is my... Oh, that's right. It's called casing. It's not called fission. That's why. Reactor casings. Hooray! Good. Okay. So it's a multi-block reactor, right? So we have to figure out fuel rods. And active cooling. The active fluid cooler, when given a coolant, can cool down a fission or fusion reaction. All right. Pump coolant in this block to cool down fission and fusion reactors. Must be placed in a fission structure or on the diagonal of a fusion ring. If used to cool a fission reactor, the requirements for each fluid type are the same as the passive counterpart. If used to cool a fusion reactor, it is much more efficient for a cooler to have a partner on the exact opposite side of the entire fusion ring. Sweet. No idea, but sounds cool. So this thing said basically in any size box with the corners missing, right? Is that what it said? Multi-block shaped like a box with the sides and corners being left out. What? It can be pretty much any size. Reactor cells, coolers, and moderator blocks. Place the controller along an edge at a corner or within one of the faces of the structure. So here's what I think I'm going to want to do. We want to make what now? So you said with reactor casing, reactor cells. Reactor cell from nuclear craft. Lithium ion cells. So like, let's teach you how this is made, because I suspect we'll want some of that. Coolers, which we already have made a bunch of, right? And moderator blocks. Graphite block, fission reactor modifier. Oh boy, look at all these rules. Beryllium block, fission reactor moderator. Okay, cool. So those are, I don't think we need to autocraft those, because we can just make those on demand as needed. It's neat, though. It's neat. I think I'm going to go, like, get on the Googles and take a look at this, because it doesn't make sense, like, exactly how it's supposed to look based on this description. But we'll take a look. So I'll be back in a minute. How's that sound? All right, I think I understand how this works. It's actually pretty complex, which I kind of like. We're going to want more of these reactor casings. Let's get like another 30 of them or so. Start that up for me, would you, buddy? Sweet. I think what happens is you basically build the outer edges for the casing. Is that right? Hey, a 3x3x3 fission reactor. Sweet, I did it correctly. That's cool. And then the way it works is you place blocks in here, and depending on what blocks you place in there determines the energy output and the heat generation of the nuclear reactor. Now, if it overheats, it doesn't explode and destroy things, but it does destroy the components of the reactor itself. It turns them into like a particular kind of block that's basically like, you know, bad. And I don't know what it does or if it harms the world in any way. I don't think so from what I've read so far. But it basically, like, you know, makes the block worthless and then you have to replace it. So overheating is bad. We don't want overheating to happen. And it's kind of like a mini game of you put stuff in here and you want to build your reactor in a smart way. So there's things that produce power. There's things that increase the power output of the things that produce power. But the things that produce power also produce heat. And the things that increase the power output also increases the heat output. But then there's blocks that reduce the heat output. So it's like a balancing game of power to heat, to efficiency, to that kind of thing. So that makes it fun. So that's neat. So let's come back in a minute once I read some more. But at the very least, casing should be good. Yay! So 3x3 fission reactor, energy stored, heat level, heat generation, cooling rate, heat multiplier, efficiency. You put fuel cells in here, and you get RF and some kind of waste output here. And it's RF per tick and heat per tick. That is neat. I can't wait to try this out. So we have to put things inside, and those things are energy cells, right? Reactor cells. So that's your tough alloy and pink stained glass. And then there's the moderators, right? So the cells are the things that produce power, right? So the more cells you have, the more power and heat you have. The moderators affect the cells adjacent to them, and that increases the heat and power output of the cells that you already put in there, right? And then there's coolers, which lower the heat output. And we made some coolers last episode, right? There's different coolers with different stats, right? So we saw that. So like, you know, basically water coolers are kind of meh, redstone coolers are kind of yeah, and Enderium coolers are pretty awesome. Enderium or Cryothium. So let's come back in a minute and put stuff inside this casing. Sweet. So I'm taking a look at the two moderator blocks, and there's graphite or beryllium. So graphite seems to be the easier one to get, only because, like, A, we already have a bunch of it, and B, all it costs is charcoal. So easy peasy. So I don't know how many we're going to want, but it sounds like a good idea to just get, like, a bunch of blocks. Does that sound cool? And we can always just, you know, get a bunch more because, yeah, they're really easy to come by. So that is one of your moderators. So again, what this does, and there's a whole lot of math behind this, and I'm not going to get into the math because I feel like if I really wanted to like go deep into this mod, I could probably get into the math and figure out like, you know, efficient designs and stuff. Kind of like, you know, with extreme reactors and all that stuff, right? Big reactors and yada, yada, yada. But graphite blocks basically, and then we want cells. So I don't know how many we're going to want. Like one of the designs that's recommended here is like, if you're doing like a 3x3, they say like a checkerboard of cells and moderators is good. So if I was going to do that, I would need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of these reactor cells. So that looks pretty straightforward to make. A walrus, huh? Oot. And then 3 times 5, which is 15 graphite blocks. So that's cool. So that's one way to go about it. But also it's recommended so we need active cooling if we were going to do that. So the other thing we could get is some Enderium coolers. So let's get some more coolers. Like, I'm gonna like play with Enderium coolers a little bit, right? Does that sound like kind of a fun time? So you're currently crafting some tough alloys for me. Yeah, that's what's up. Can we speed you up, Mr. Alloy Maker? Just a smidgen. That should be cool. Bang. A little bit faster. Thank you very much. 16 is where I've settled on. Like, it's probably a lot faster than it needs to be, but also I'm okay on power. Also, I'm working on making more power that I totally don't need because we have plenty of power. Right energy cell? Yeah, we're pretty good. Ultimate energy cube. Yeah, we're doing just fine. Gas spreading generator is killing it. So you're gonna make your things, and that means that your cells should be wrapping up, right? Because you're working on a few empty coolers, and your cells are done. Cool. Okay. So if I put you in there and we did that, I made some more Enderium off camera in preparation because Enderium seemed like the easiest to access, and like from what I gathered on my quick look, Enderium is the best cooling. Cryothium and Enderium, for that matter. Oh, emeralds are pretty good too, to be fair, but you know, Enderium's easy. And then that's cool. So let's start off with this thing being as, so this would require active cooling if we didn't want this to melt down. But I'm gonna play with the numbers a little bit and figure out like what I can do. So do you tell me like what my cells 12? Okay, that's good to know. You picked up on the cells, right? So then in order for us to actually put fuel in there, we're gonna want fuel rods. So HEU 235 fuel. In about a minute, it'll become depleted. So HEU 235 fuel. Well, that's cool. So you just need uranium-235 and uranium-238. Neat. Or it can be oxide fuel gets smelted into fuel. That's interesting. So are you over here, Chief? So we've got some 238 and tiny clumps of 235, which I'm assuming does that. Now, how are you for uranium ingots? I feel like we're going to want a few more of these bad boys. So we should have a bunch over here ready to be smelted up. Right? So I can just... And you're making all kinds of good stuffs there. So I want to just, like, get my first fuel rod. So it looks like there's a lot of different types of fuels. But HEU-235 seems to be the one that the quest wants me to make, at least. Right? There's other kinds of fuel here, which I'm assuming we're going to want to get into at some point. Now, I'm fully aware that this is, like, not a good super situation to be in, but I'm not 100% sure. I think you need a lever, and I'm hoping it goes through like that. So, like, I'm just going to try this. In worst case... So you're not producing any... Oh, hold on, you are producing... Are you running, though? Okay. So that's 38,400 heat per tick. Okay. And we can store 675,000 heat. So to me... And that's generating 288,000 RF a tick. So that's cool. So to me, that sounds bad. In terms of the heat level, right? And I knew that going in. I knew that this was like a super hot reactor that was going to be producing a lot of heat. But yeah, we definitely don't want to turn this thing on because I feel like that would overload the heat value in about a second, right? Like 1 second would be like, boom, bad. So we only want to like toggle that switch for a second. So let's remove that guy. And what I'm going to do is replace one of the corner blocks. So now Inderium says, must touch exactly 3 reactor casings at exactly 1 vertex. Okay. I don't know what that means. Did that number change or no? Cooling rate, minus 140 heat per tick. Okay, so that is pure comedy in terms of like not even close to enough cooling. Yeah, no, I get it. I see what's happening here. Yeah, no, it makes sense. We are totally gonna want more Inderium coolers. And we're probably going to want to have not as much. So, like, if we were actively cooling this thing, this would be, like, super good, right? But we're going to totally need more. So, like, let's get 4 more of you dudes. And we're probably going to want to cut back on the old moderator thing. So you're making steel for me. You're making tough alloys now. And then you should be able to make... that. All right, guys. So at this point, I've placed Inderium coolers in all 8 corners, and that's brought my heat down a moderate level. Not quite as much as I had maybe hoped. What if we like clear out this center line? Do you have to put things in here? So that's a big question that I don't know the answer to. Like, are you still a valid reactor? You are, and your heat values are still quite high. Still quite high on that heat multiplier number. It's cool, though. It's cool. So, like, what if we just got rid of... Did I not put one here? I must not have put one here. So my bad on that. Like, what if we just got rid of... Like, I could put more cooling stuff in there, by the way. But I feel like we should probably get to a decent point where heat gen is not that crazy. Like, let's remove... these guys? Now, where did you spawn at, mister? I'm looking at F7 here, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of lighting opportunities. So with removing those 4, we're down to 7,420 heat per tick. I'm guessing we want this thing to be, like, balanced, right? So these cooling numbers are really hard to get right. What I'm going to remove is all the graphite blocks. And I guess we won't really know. Until we fill this top back in. 220 heat per tick. All right. So cooling rate is negative 980. Heat gen is 220 heat. So, like, let's turn it on and see what happens at this point. Well, that's cool. Look at you. All right, now I turn you off. Do you cool? You do cool. All right, neat. So I turn you on, you start producing heat, and then when you're off, you reduce the heat. I see how this works, kinda. All right, that's nifty. But we used a lot of uranium there for, like, what I would say is not a huge amount of power. Now, also to get power out of this thing, we want some kind of casing thing. Fission port? Fission reactor port. Places blocks in the shell of a fission reactor in place of some reactor casing, but not in the top or bottom sides. If a controller is attached to the reactor structure, then its inventory and stored energy can be accessed by automation through this block. So that's what we want for sure. Because I think that will allow me to access the RF coming out of the block. So, like, let's pop you here with maybe a trash can. Because, you know, we're learning the mod right now. I'm not super worried about the power gen aspects of it. So does that mean you're going to do that? Fission reactor port. 0 RF, huh? I feel like that's a lie. Fission reactor port. Do make sure that the port is facing into the reactor interior. The front of the port is the side with slightly different texture. Define slightly different texture. Oh, hello. Hold on. Now, yeah, now you're cool. Look, now you're good, right? So that's cool. 1.7 million. So I probably just had it facing the wrong way. So if I do that, does that drain automatically? Oh, yeah, it does. Sweet. All right. That's cool. Don't yell at me about wasting RF. 1.7 million RF is nothing to me at this point. It's nothing, you hear me? Nothing. All right, so that's neat. So cool. Pretty nifty. So we could probably have a little bit more of this stuff, right? So I would love to have more. So what can I use with this thing? I can get tiny clumps of uranium-238 and neptunium and plutonium. Nice. So I guess that's what I probably want to do with it. Hey, you're in my way, evolved Enderman. And by you're in my way, I mean you exist and I don't appreciate it. Right? So I pop you into there. Fuel reprocessor. Okay. That's a different block. They looked similar quest or UI wise, but plutonium fuel reprocessor. Got it. Got it. Fuel reprocessor. Bada bing, bada boom. You just need a couple tough alloys and boron and a linear actuator. How many of those do we have? Is it 300-ish? It is 300-ish. Nice. So more tough alloys coming up. Bing, bang, boom. They craft pretty quickly now, though, so that's nice. Nice. So then you should be coming up next. There you are. And fuel reprocessor. Hooray! Crystallizer, I have no idea what your role is. So let's pop you maybe over here. Does that sound fair? I think that sounds fair, right? And we will get our advanced universal cable in here. And at some point, like, maybe I'll figure out how I want this all to actually interact, and if I want it to actually be used for power gen. I don't see why not, but I have to figure out how this whole thing works before we get to that point, right? Do the thing. Hooray! Quest complete. Advancement made. Criticality. Sweet Neptune. Sweet. Alright, so that's nifty. So we need true nuclear fusion next in order to, like, do this thing. Now, what do you produce? 1,000 RF attack constantly? Now, that ain't bad. Plutonium RTG? That ain't bad. And it just needs a single piece of plutonium-238. Okay, well, what's involved in making that? Plutonium-238, not the oxide version, but 238. Needs a tiny clump of 238, or smelting oxide, or plutonium dust. There's plutonium gears today, I learned. Molten plutonium, ingot former from nuclear craft. So tiny clumps of 238 from 238 oxide. Depleted Hen 236 fuel or fuel rod. Okay. I think what we should probably do, because that was a little underwhelming how long that lasted. Wow, look at all the different types of fuel there are. I probably used a very basic one. And there's also liquid forms of these fuel and buckets. Isn't there a fuel rod? No. I saw something that looked like fuel rod. There's a lot of things named rod, though. So if we look again at plutonium 238, was it? That came somewhere. Yes, depleted Hen 236 fuel rod. Fuel rods are not required anymore. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Alright, so fuel rods are not required anymore. So, nuclear fuel. And I'm guessing all these different types of fuel have different base process time, base power. Okay. Sweet. Base heat gen. So each of these different fuels have a base amount of power and heat that they produce. And burn times. It's kind of cool. I like this. This is neat. There's so much variety here. Like, and I'm always a little bit worried when there's a lot of variety like this, because it's like, you know, there's going to be like a best one to use, and maybe that's not the case. Neat. All right. So thorium 232 oxide. Sweet. I'd like to play with this fuel a little bit more. Where's my 238 stuff? Tiny clump, uranium, uranium. Super familiar, by the way. Tiny clump of 238. Is that what this is? This is 235. This is 238. So we have tons of 238. I don't know what neptunium is going to be used for. Well, that's cool. It can be melted down. Decay hastener? Neptunium decays into uranium-233. Very cool. Very cool. I guess the oxidizer. So, like, we've got you... HEU-235, was it? Is that what I used? There's very large list. HEU-235 fuel. So... HEU-235, right? So there's the normal version, and then there's the oxide version. So the normal version produces 4,800 RF a tick and 300 heat. And you do a lot more power for a little bit more heat. And you are just made by what? 235 oxide and 238 oxide. Or we could infuse the base fuel with just 4,000 liquid oxygen. That's cool. And it takes galacticraft liquid oxygen. Look at that. So if I made this 235 fuel, no, that's LEU. We want HEU. Very confusing. But let's do it. Let's figure it out. We'll figure this out, guys, together. So we make that dude, right? And I'm going to just put all these little pieces away. But now if I oxidize you, right? So we need to oxidize you with liquid oxygen. Do we have a tank of liquid oxygen? Advanced gas tank. Empty, empty. Well, it needs to be liquid oxygen, not... You are nitrogen and you are helium. What's involved in getting oxygen out of the environment? Isn't there some kind of oxygen collector? We could probably use this one from Galacticraft, because we should... You guys do have oxygen collectors from the environment and a compressor. This is a pressurized tube, so that's a gas, right? Pressurized tubes means that's an oxygen gas. Okay. Because I want like an oxygen collector. Because there's many collectors. There's helium, nitrogen. Is that it from nuclear craft? I guess so. Alright. But remember there was a block that split water into hydrogen and oxygen gas. Sweet. So what we probably want are some tanks. Can I just teach you how to make ultimate fluid tanks? Because they're not bad to make. So like learn that. And I feel like we're probably approaching the yield wrapping up point, by the way, guys. But I just want to try this a little bit and see how it goes. And I have to teach it like each iteration. Do what now? Oh, I see your problem. Make an advanced for me real quick. They're ore dictionaried and it's confused, I think. Yeah, prevent substitutions. I'm guessing that's what's happening or something like that. It's just a little confused. So go ahead and make me an elite real quick. Just so I can say yes to that. And then go ahead and make me 3 more ultimates. In the meantime, I have no idea how this is going to work out, but we're going to try it out. Do we have, that's basic mechanical pipes. Cool. So there's your 3 more ultimates. So let's get you extracting something out of there, right? So you're extracting the hydrogen. So technically we only really need this many. So I'm gonna actually switch it up so that it's here. Right, so now in here you've probably got some other kind of gas, deuterium or something. Good, deuterium. And now it's got oxygen, right? So now it's producing more oxygen. Sweet. Now you're some kind of, tank. So if I did this, can I do that? Yes. And now you've got, cool. You've got oxygen gas in there. So one of these guys, fluid infuser maybe, is what I use to infuse you. Ow. Creeper, please. Where are bad guys coming from around here? Is it on top of those things? We'll get lightning over there in a minute. But fluid infuser, I think. Isotope separator, huh? Neat. Fluid infuser plus oxygen gas equals okay. Oh, hello, thank you. So you've got oxygen gas, so I do that. I don't know how long you take typically, but Nuclear speed upgrade time. Good enough for me. Wow, did we really run out of iron that quickly? What is going on over here? Because there's no way we burned through that much iron. Are you out of... Oh, you're out of that stuff. Alright, that's probably fair. For now, just do that, and then this will get you working again. I have to make more of that stuff. And I have plenty of reserved, so 235 oxide fuel. Nice. Now can I do that and then something like... I mean, you have a pretty small amount in there left, to be honest. But that's alright. We'll be good. So you're probably making tons of this stuff, right? It would be neat if I could like void hydrogen or something, but it's all good. We're making it. So then you can go in here. Alright, so that ain't bad, but that's definitely, you know, 80-20 heat. But wow, did we fill up that energy storage really fast. That's nifty. That produces a lot of power, but also a decent amount of heat. That's cool, though. I like it. Alright, let's come back next episode, play a little bit more with nuclear craft. Probably check out Fusion next episode, because that looks neat. But yeah, I like this mod. It's definitely spiffy. Alright guys, Darryl20 signing off. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and take it easy.